All right, welcome back to the part 68. I told you about I was gonna do Lexi Dyke, so class of 2015. So Lexi said, I would say one of the most historic moments for me was when our women's basketball team won state. I believe it was the first time, and I was a cheerleader, so I was on the sidelines to got to see their raw emotions. During that moment, it was really powerful. It's something I definitely won't ever forget. That's one thing that comes to mind right now. What was the school atmosphere like whenever you were here? I would say the school atmosphere was friendly. It was kind of driven around being a bulldog in kind of like a bulldog way. It always has been. And that had that definition or not, when we all kind of knew that what it meant to be a bulldog. So I think that at school just had one comment. The atmosphere at North was really united and friendly. And we are all kind of confused on what it meant to be a bulldog in bulldog way. That phrase was really popular when I was here in school. So I think we all just kind of had a kind of like a sense of family, so to speak. What did you enjoy most about your high school career? The thing I enjoyed most about my high school career was definitely being a part of the journalism department here. I was a co-editor and chief of the website for 2 years. I also created some accounts, like Twitter accounts and stuff like that. And that was something that I was really proud of to be a part of, and that to be a part of nationally ranked journalism department in high school is. It was blessing, and I took a lot of this stuff I learned at college with me, and I think that was it. That was definitely like one of my major highlights. What was the rivalry like between North and East? It always has been heated. As like I said, as a cheerleader, I kind of got a witness it first to end and be on the sidelines during those games. But I also think that despite there being such a rivalry, we could still come together at certain times in a community. So it was an intense rivalry, and it was kind of something that's playing. Whereas sometimes, during my high school career, it was obvious who was gonna win the game. Columbus East was gonna beat us in a football every year. Didn't really matter how we tried, how hard we tried. They could try as hard as they wanted to. It was gonna be have necessarily happened for them. And then basketball was kind of reversed. We always had kind of have seemed to have an upper hand. So was it ever really really close to the score when I was in high school? No, so I think it was more about being there and being present and having like a comment you would go to it for people rather than being like, we hate each other and we just want to smash each other. I don't think it's ever been like that. What was your favorite class and why? Obviously, I enjoyed all my journalism classes. But other than that, my favorite class was AP English with what is his name? Weinhelmer. Alright, so my favorite class was AP English with Mr. Weinhelmer. I enjoyed all my English classes because I really like to read and I like writing. So in that class in particular, I took my senior year and it was kind of a good college preparation class for what college English writing is like. But it was also really fun. Who was your favorite teacher and why? Miss McCarver, Rachel McCarver, is my favorite teacher at North because she taught me so much about journalism and what it takes me to be a journalist. Her and Mrs. Green, when she was here during that time, really took the initiative with students to make sure that they knew everything that they needed to be, to be a good student and journalists. But I also, had something teachers in all subjects. I think North is very lucky to have teachers that are so committed with teaching. What were your favorite restaurants in Columbus? Well, one of my favorite restaurants is actually not here anymore. It was called Shorty's. They had really good tenderloin, so it was like a hole in the wall restaurant. And I think they got rid of it two summers ago. But yeah, it was my favorite place to go for lunch. Slongzigs is another one of my favorite places. I miss Shorty's. What was your senior project? If you guys don't know what I'm eating, I'm eating some Skittles right here. Guys, I'm eating some Skittles over here. It's like wild berry. Actually, pretty like that. My senior project is actually based, journalism based. I created a Facebook page for the C4 program here, and I also went to C4 events like a cop simulation, and I turned that into like a video audio storytelling for them for that so that they could gain more traction in the community and people can know more about them. So incoming freshmen can learn about the C4 program, and I worked on that with Mr. Hack, and it was a lot of fun. What did the yearbook look like when you're in high school? It was very modern, but I only bought one yearbook despite I think I had a piece of work in like every yearbook. Whenever it was like a page or a story, but I still didn't buy it except for my senior year. I have no clue why, but it was always kind of the modern, and the theme was always really creative and always tragic. I think my senior year one was a part and A part, which is like a space between the A and the P versus no space between the A and P. And kind of what it means is to be part of something. That was one of the coolest themes, and I think they did while I was here. But just watching it from my freshman year to my senior years, things did change a lot. In journalist, in journalistic style, changed a lot. Sometimes it was story heavy, and sometimes it was really image heavy. And it was like kind of school, like kind of cool to see how that depended on whose staff was at that time. How many people were in that school total? I think 3,000. Yeah, that's it. What was a defining moment of your high school experience? I think the defining moment, what kind of tested my character or made me grow as a person when I will be asked to cover something difficult. We had a student pass away in a major car accident, and we also had another student critically injured in a major car accident. And when I had to go to a pub room in the morning after this event to sit down and write something about it, was really difficult. You had to grow up in that moment like you've never been asked to grow up before. And making sure you get the information right and you're respectful to everybody that was involved because there are other students involved. And you have to think about how their best friends are going to read this, how they're going to react, and knowing you have to walk out of that room and see people in the hallway, and they're not going to be okay when you're not going to be okay. I think that really is what taught me the most, and were kind of the moments when I was like, my character is what I have. Pardon me. And being respectful and doing the story justice is what I have to do, just like you're doing. All right, Teresa Lovins. Teresa Lovins. Part 69. The class of 1984. All right, I'm gonna do some assignments too. Taylor Strimple. I think Taylor made that assignment when she didn't even answer. So Taylor Strimple. So exploration questions: the layers of geosphere. Repeat: the layers of the geosphere. Rocks in the rock cycle. On a separate sheet of paper, answer all of the following questions by drawing diagrams, write brief statements, and drawing caption pictures. Combinations of those or any other ways to help you understand this information. What is the geosphere? What is the difference between the compositional and structural layers of the geosphere? Draw a diagram of showing the compositional layers and structural layers of the geosphere. Where does convection take place in the geosphere? What are some differences between oceanic lithosphere and continental lithosphere? Like, what are some connections with those things? And also define the term rock. What is a mineralize? How is it different than a mineral? Ugh. That melon beer is kind of making me feel like this. What is a mineralize? How is it different than a mineral? Either by writing a short list, making a comparative chart, or writing a short paragraph, explain the differences and similarities between the three rock types. Give an example of each as well. What is a magma? What is a magma? How is it related to the rock cycle? What are sediments? I'm not crying, guys. I'm just that melonberry made me kind of. My mouth is making. I don't know. Sometimes it makes me. Melonberries are kind of making me soured out, kind of. On the back of the sheet, draw a stylized version of the rock cycle. Color it, making it pretty full. Include magma and loose sediments as well. Draw arrows that show how rock types move from one type for another. List all the processes for each arrow as well. ESS reading prompt 820. Today's reading prompt, you will have to sign into Google and Discovery. You can click on that. After you have finished writing in your journal, begins today's lesson activities, sorry. Start with your reading prompt for today. You will need to simply click on the link of the order to access the reading passage. Please answer all the questions embedded in the reading passage as you read. As we begin using the textbook, please take some time playing around with the features it has to offer. It has to read aloud feature, a notes feature, or many others. Take a couple of minutes and familiarize yourself with it because we are going to spending significant time in the book of this year. Yeah, make sure you get something aware and get it done. This was from Miss Sharman's class. a copy of the Harlem Jazz webquest published. Harlem Renations, and Jazz request. For each section, you should provide a link for your website to answer questions. Please type your answers on this sheet. You do not have to use full sentences. Please try to be thorough and thoughtful with your responses. Don't forget to use closed captions on your videos. And read and write for Google extension puzzle piece to have a document to website to read to you. Part 1, Introduction, Harlem Renations, video crash course, link here. Please watch the whole thing. Watch this introductory video for a basic understanding of the Harlem Renations. Just listen and watch. No questions to answer about this video, but it might be referred back on the test or quiz. Part 2, PBS History of Harlem Renations. Reading, click here for this link. Please watch the whole thing. What was the Harlem Renations? Why did African Americans move north? List 3 of the African American artists whose works received recognition. In the 1920s, when a person identified as a new Negro, what did they stand for? And what was the greatest impact for the Harlem Renations? Part 3, Harlem Renations, artist Langston Hughes biography reading. What year was Langston Hughes born? Langston Hughes born. What year did he die? What were some of the changes or challenges that Langston Hughes went through as a child growing up? Hughes was particularly known for this. Part 4, how did Hughes get published? Reading, click here for his link. What did Langston Hughes do that was pretty gusty and help him to get his first work published? You can learn more about that. Remember, this will come around you. Jazz and blues. Jazz and blues were both extremely popular starting in the 1920s. Hailing from New Orleans, jazz music was first known as the jazz, and later dropped the two S into Z, which means cool. Jazz took shape in several basses or brass bands. The jazz style was dominated by the use of saxophone, piano, cornet, and the trombone. Particularly from the southern part of Mississippi, blues came into being with its first ever recorded blues and music in the 1920s. Around that time, blues was usually played as a solo compared to resemblance of jazz music. Although blues music has long since to utilize intergate bands. The first blues solo player was just used to a slide guitar as his primary musical instrument. Explain the two differences between the jazz and the blues based on the introductory paragraph, which is from A to B. Pick a jazz, a blues soundtrack to get you acquainted with these awesome music forms. You can click on blues or click on the jazz. Now that you have the soundtrack playing, open the new Google browser and window to play this historical of jazz video. Video, click here. According to the video, where was jazz born? Jazz is a blend of which styles make it. Jazz is a blend of which types of styles of music. List them here. 3 chances. In its early days, jazz was considered to be what type of music? A bad thing. True or false? The first jazz recording was done by an all-white band in New Orleans. Which group of soldiers in WWI took jazz in an international audience? While overseas, hint, we already talked about them at once. The Roaring and the Roaring 2020s became known as the or the Roaring 20s became known as Answer 6. Answer the following questions as you watch the video. Jazz is very much based on the one of the hallmarks of jazz is jazz expresses of core American values listed here. What types of music did jazz lead to? List them here. What has jazz influenced? List them here. Finish this sentence. Jazz is. Alright, I'm gonna do like two more assignments. Interactive notes, the Electoral College. Interactive notes, the Electoral College. What's the Electoral College and what is its purpose? In what formula is used to determine how many electors the state receives? Why is the number 270 so important when it comes to the Electoral College process? What impact have political parties had on the Electoral College system? Identify the number of electors each candidate would receive on the following situation and answer the following question that follows. Iowa, candidate from A, B to C. Popular vote, candidate A has a lot of them. Popular percentage in electors received, which is like 757,217. And there's 49.29518 percent, which some of them that you can find familiar. Why did you award the electors in this manner? What is a swing state, battleground state, and why is it so important in the electoral college process? What are some criticisms of the electoral college system? What do proponents believe that are advantages of the electoral college system? Why did the framers call the Constitution if it feels like the electoral college was the best method for electing the president? A copy of mine, so a lot of pages. I often settle in tight knit neighborhoods that are compromised. Yeah, it can be. You guys know this. This is some copy of mine, but I didn't even put the answers in. Why did I put Mr. Brennan as an editor? Pardon me. What does this say have to do? Did I do that? I don't think I did. They are comprised of members who with their own ethnicities. These communities were typically called enclaves. An enclave is an area, often in a city, which culturally distant group of people's lives separately for people from other groups, which enclaves from Boston North, which people that live here. Case to remember, words to know, stipulation, another word for requirement. You have to be required to do something, like to wear a mask. But to be honest with you guys, I was gonna plan to do that realistic face mask, but I'm not sure how people would react. I would just put a mask on, like doing that. I could put a different mask on and I could put a realistic face mask to trick my teachers. That's all I could do. Yeah, it's just a requirement for now. Alright. Provisions, another word for arrangement, which is can be one of those things. Which can be provided in the first section for the suspension for immigration of Chinese laborers into the United States for a period of 10 years. Alright, so I'll be doing a story of the next part, 69. So yeah, I think it's going to be about Jesse Williams. So I'll be reading your story next. If you guys have any questions, just let me know, and I'll be answering in the comments down below. Part 69 coming up.